Okay. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
So,
Yes, sir.
okay. So, uh, Locke is basically talking about authority. And I told you that his social contract also has two stages. The first is that which eliminates the people from the generic society. Unlike Hobbes, he couldn't create because he's a liberal thinker, and liberals don't confront. I told you there is a liberal surmounting method. So what he did therefore is he said everything is peaceful and everything is nice in the state of nature. It's just that productivity is low. So we introduce money in it in the second stage. And when that happens, then there is a necessity for some kind of authority. He doesn't want absolute authority. Everything about Locke is limited. I'll talk about that. Okay. So, in fact, it's almost like Locke is the inventor of the word limited. All right. So, he creates a civil society, which he says is the one that has people who have weekly savings of 40 shillings per week. I mean, 40 shillings. So, only these people constitute the civil society. And it's only these people who are empowered to enter into the second stage of the first stage is the creation of civil society by those people who have that minimum 40 shillings property limit. The minimum limit is not maximum limit. And only these people can enter the second phase of the social contract, which is the creation of the sovereign. The sovereign is not a result of the first stage. Okay. He is a result of the second stage. Some people will tell you that Locke talked about constitutional monarchy. Please don't go there. Locke never talked about anything called a constitutional monarchy. That is a completely wrong thing. And another thing that I have found is that my wife is also a political science teacher, but right now she's teaching in a junior college. And when she asked, I mean, the, they were supposed to ask a question. Intermediate, you know how it is. You have to follow those Telugu Academy books. So, who is the father of modern constitutionalism? So, people go on to the net and search, and there is this thing called ResearchGate, okay, which doesn't allow people into it, but it shows some results. Some idiot has written a paper in which he said Machiavelli should be considered the father of modern constitutionalism. Machiavelli wrote about a republic, and that too in the discourses. He did not write about that in his Prince, which is a system of monarchy. The discourses talks about republicanism, but it doesn't talk about about constitutions. Okay, it doesn't talk about constitutions at all. So please don't, that is also a wrong fact. It's a completely wrong fact, just as the fact that uh, Locke is the father of constitutional monarchy. He's not. He never said anything to that effect. Okay. So Unlike in Hobbes, where you have the sovereign and the sovereign is absolute, you surrender your rights to him. So you first create the state and the sovereign by surrendering your rights, and the sovereign then sovereign and the state then create society. So I told you Hobbes is unique. He's unique because nowhere would you have read that state comes before society. It's only in Hobbes that you find that. It's only in Hobbes that you find that. That's because it's an experimental thing that he's doing. Same thing here with Mr. Locke. The only difference is that the civil society thing that he introduces is a soft way of eliminating people who he thinks are less rational. So why can't they enter? What is it that is keeping these people from entering into a social contract? Why is the civil society restricted only to the property class? How are you making a comparison between rationality and property? How can you make? Today, if you're born the son of a beggar and somebody is born as the son of a rich businessman, the rich businessman's son already has money. He'll go to the best schools. He'll go to Chirek, Oak Ridge, all these kind of schools. He'll pay his way to America and go to American universities to do studies. The son of a beggar obviously doesn't get any education. So you'll say, what is the relationship here? Okay, what is the relationship here? So the question that comes up is, how is Locke making this comparison? I already gave you an example when the digital economy opened up. When the digital economy opened up in the 1990s, that is when you had the internet, cellular telephony, all these things came up. It was called the new economy. The old economy is the brick and mortar economy. Okay, that is the old economy, brick and mortar. This new economy was post-industrial revolution. Okay, post-industrial revolution, the economy that came into being was the new economy. Now, this digital thing, which is now everywhere. Okay, a lot of my friends are concerned about the fact that Facebook is and WhatsApp are now going to use the data that you have, and so they want to all leave. Let's go to Signal, let's go to Telegram. We have to leave WhatsApp, otherwise our life will become public. I just put one post there. I said, you are idiots. Okay, this collection of data, profiling of people, it has been happening for the last 20 years at least. Okay, and Google at one time said that it will keep the data of its users for 30 years. And Google has bought some 5 or 6 decommissioned ships and put its servers in the hull. When the ship is decommissioned, They pulled out everything from it. It's just the outer hull that is there. In that, they put servers. And I don't know if you know this, India, after America, has the highest number of servers in the world. And in India, Hyderabad is number 2 in terms of digital data. And surveillance, Hyderabad, Chennai is number 1, Hyderabad is number 2 in surveillance in the world. That means you're constantly being monitored. We have beaten Beijing. We have beaten New York. We have beaten London. We are the second most surveilled city in the world. Everything that you do is known to the government. So I tell people, be very careful about what you say on public platforms, especially social media platforms. Please be very, very careful, because you have this thing called a UAPA. You say something against the government and you say Modi is not a good prime minister. If they don't like it, they can say you are an enemy of the state. You are going to basically, you're preaching sedition, and they can put you away. And you don't have access to habeas corpus. What does it mean when you don't have access to a habeas corpus? The Constitution basically tells you that within 24 hours of your arrest, you have to be produced in a court of law. But if you are arrested under UAPA, no need to produce you anywhere. No need to produce you anywhere. At one time, the NDA had made POTA, Prevention of Terrorist Activities. That was repealed by the UPA government. So again, now they made the UAPA, which is Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. Very, very suitably, that said terrorism. This is unlawful. So who is defining what is unlawful? Okay, so we are now surveilled. So I tell people, why are you worried? People know, just don't make. If you have intentions of living peacefully, do not make political statements for, against anything. Stay away from those. Don't make them on social media platforms or on any public platform which can go. You know what happened to Akbaruddin Owaisi? Somebody taped him saying, give us half an hour, and then that went to the court. So please don't say anything on, you never know who's filming you. And people are saying, we'll shift to Telegram, we'll shift to this, we'll shift to Signal, because WhatsApp is not going to give us privacy. You don't have privacy. You haven't had it for 20 years. That's the reality. Anyway, so let me get back to this. So what Hobbes is basically, Locke is trying to tell you is that if you didn't take advantage of the opportunities that are available, I told you that's what happened with the high-tech city. When the high-tech city, the economy of Hyderabad boomed. It just boomed. Why? Because one, you had all these new economy companies coming in, which is the digital economy companies. We keep hearing about Google and Facebook, but even much before Google and Facebook came to Hyderabad, you had Microsoft, you had Oracle, you had IBM, you had Sierra Atlantic, huge companies. They're still there. Deloitte is still there. Google, Facebook, Lycos, the first search engine in the world, is now owned by a Hyderabad company called Vibrant, Y, Brant. So at that time, jobs, all you needed to know was English. All you needed to know was English. If you knew English, you were taken into customer service, and that is through email. I don't know if you have noticed, you can't speak to a person easily anymore. If you make a phone call, you have to go through that IVR. Press 1, press 2, press 3, press 4. Who do you get to speak to? No one. You send an email. Some of the times you get what are called canned responses. This kind of email comes, this kind of email goes. So it's becoming less and less human. But it still gave jobs, not just to computer professionals, not just IT. It created a sector called IT enabled services. And there you didn't have to be a computer professional. You just needed to know how to use the computer, and you needed to know English so that you could use the ITES. Hyderabad has the biggest ITES industry in the country today. Bangalore has the biggest IT. We have the biggest ITES. Okay. And I told you, cabs to pick up all these people and take them to their offices. We had all those things happening. When cabs came into being, then the auto industry boomed because people, the cab aggregators were, but not aggregators, cab owners were buying up. People got jobs as drivers. People got jobs as watchmen, because not one watchman standing at the gate. If you go to a typical IT company or ITES company, every level, every door has a watchman. That is a security protocol. Okay, so many people got jobs and their position was much better. That's what Locke said. So if you couldn't take advantage of that situation, because when capitalism was coming up, it offered, it was greenfield and it offered. I remember when there was nothing at Madhapur, absolutely nothing, not even a road was there at Madhapur. Today it's a different place. That is exactly what happened at the birth of capitalism. At the time when that came, it showed up opportunities that people didn't know existed. People had no idea that these opportunities existed, right? And so he said, if you could not take up these opportunities that presented themselves to you, then it shows that you are not capable of taking care of yourself. And if you are not capable of taking care of yourself, can I entrust somebody with you? Will you send? See, I'll tell you a very interesting fact about Usmania University. Okay. Especially during the separate Telangana agitation, the teachers and the students formed a joint action committee. And they said, let's all fight for separate Telangana. Okay. We'll fight for a separate Telangana. And then your future is wonderful, because the Andhra fellows are taking all the jobs. Okay. So you will now get the jobs. At that time, I was in arts college. I told Rajesh, if Telangana happens, 5 years after it happens, I will ask you, what changed? Remember this. Rajesh, your teacher. I told him this. I will ask you 5 years after Telangana happened, what changed? And The fact that I want to tell you is all the teachers who wanted to fight for Telangana, who said people from outside Telangana cannot come here, they sent their children to Karnataka to study MBBS, to study engineering, and they sent them to the best institutes. Manipal University, Ramaya College for engineering. Then they sent for engineering to Tamil Nadu, to SRM College, to Gindi Engineering College, very well known colleges. They sent them there. Even to do BA courses, a couple of my colleagues, their children were sent to Delhi. They didn't put anybody here. They didn't put anybody here. All their children were educated outside of Telangana, not just Hyderabad, not just Usmania University. They didn't even send them to the University of Hyderabad. They sent them outside Hyderabad completely, all the teachers, and told the students here that fight for a separate state. Rajesh was unemployed then. Rajesh is still unemployed now. He's only a part-time teacher. Who got a job? So I asked him what changed. What changed? Nothing changed. It's the same. Instead of all the hype that Chandrababu Naidu was building, now KTR is building it. Anyway, that's besides the point. All right. So people can be taken for a ride. That also is there. Now, members of the civil society, having proved themselves to be very, very rational, they had the power to remove the sovereign if he was going against the four freedoms. Freedom of thought, free thinking, freedom of speech, free will, and free market. They said, if you go against any of these, we will remove you. And since the civil society consisted of the rich and the educated, even in that time period, the educated, Locke was confident that for the time that the sovereign is not there, the society can take care of itself, civil society. Okay. So removing of the sovereign doesn't mean that you're going to go back. So the sovereign in Locke is limited. The system of government is limited because he said the people of civil society will draw up rules. He didn't use the word constitution, by the way. You have to do that as a logical extension of what he said, which is drawing up of rules and regulations of conduct in society. Rules and regulations of conduct in society. That's all he said. And he said social rights are absolutely like natural rights. They are like the natural rights. A herbivore will get killed by a carnivore. That's the laws of nature. Similarly, if you can't take care of yourself, too bad. It's up to you. You have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of your family. And then, okay, you can take care of the state. You can start talking about the government. You can start judging the performance of the state, judging the performance of the government. Locke doesn't talk about what is this government. He only says government. That's why his work is also called Two Treatises on Government. The first treatise is against Robert Filmer. And in that, what did he say? He rejected the idea of divine right theory, which Filmer advocated. And I told you, George Sabine said Locke should have attempted to attack Hobbes, which he didn't. He sees that as a shortcoming in Locke. The reality is, Hobbes is the person who created Locke. If there wasn't a Hobbes before Locke, there wouldn't have been a Locke. So why will Locke attack? He only learned his lessons from Hobbes about not attacking something scathingly and getting yourself into trouble, which is what Hobbes did. But also, since he came later than Hobbes, by then liberalism had completely taken root. So he is a proper liberal thinker. He's the father of liberalism. I don't like these phrases, father, mother, brother, sister. Okay, I don't like these phrases, but okay, if you want to call him that, please call him. He's the father of limited government. In the two treatises on the government, in the second treatise, after having criticized Filmer and all the other people who were like Filmer, who talked about monarchies, okay, he criticized them in the first treatise, and then in the second treatise, this is what he talked about. And he said the government should be limited in its powers. And till today, liberals go by what Locke said. What was it that Locke said? I told you that Adam Smith is not an economist. I'm sorry, he's not a political economist. He's not a proper political economist. He only concentrated on the economy. And when he was asked, how does the market regulate itself? He had this vague answer. There is an unseen hand. There is an unseen hand that regulates the free market. That is what Adam Smith said. But Locke was far, far smarter than that. Locke decided that Machiavelli and Hobbes had succeeded in resurrecting the political, which was completely forgotten in the medieval period. So he uses that, and the politics that he advocates and the powers that he advocates for the political realm and its institutions make him a political economist. He also wants a free market. There is no doubt about that. He wants a free market. There is no doubt about that. But he also wants to make sure that there'll be no lawlessness and there'll be some kind of little regulation when necessary. When necessary. So he said, state is a necessary evil. Government is a necessary evil. Necessary because it has to protect the private property. Evil because it has the potential of becoming like the church. It can become all powerful. Today, I don't know how it will be 50 years from now. People will not be living like us. What 50 years? 10 years from us, from now, people will not be living like us. Whatever you do, please read George Orwell's 1984. In that, he says the state is the big brother. Big brother is watching you. He says people are living in glass houses. Words of Orwell. The novel is 1984. It's a dystopia. Okay. And he said, "New speak." People will talk in such a way that you don't understand what they are telling you. They are vague. So these are all dystopian. Somebody has been sharing on WhatsApp now that from 8th February, they are going to introduce the new terms of privacy policy. What they are doing is they have put a bathroom full of commodes, water closet commodes, or what we call Western style, but with glasses. So that is supposed to be the new privacy. There's nothing new in that. Glass houses was what George Orwell claimed in his book called 1984, which was written in 1948. The reason why he called it 1984 is because he looked at what was happening in 1948. His favorite attack was against Stalin's Russia. There's also a movie. See if you can get it on YouTube. See the movie 1984 and read his two novels. One of them is Animal Farm, which is the betrayal of the communist ideal. Please read that. Animal Farm by George Orwell. O
Even
R. Sorry?
animal.
Animal Farm.
It's a film, sir.
No, it's a book.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so read that. And 1984,
Okay, sir.
try to see if the film is available on YouTube. Okay, if you don't get it, at least read the book. At least read the book. Orwell predicted what is happening today, and he said this will happen in 84. So it's scary. People talk about Nostradamus said this will happen, that will happen. Nostradamus, I don't know what he said. He wrote quatrains, which people hardly understood. But most of George Orwell's predictions came true. All of them, especially the 1984 things. They came absolutely true. Today we are living in that world. Anyway, so Locke is somebody who wants a limited government because of the fact that he doesn't want it to become intrusive. But Locke failed to see that technology one day will get the better of human beings. He failed to see that. Today we are talking about artificial intelligence. We are making ourselves redundant. I don't know if you've realized this. Google's CEO, Eric Schmidt, says people have no business driving cars. Cars should drive themselves. You should just be passengers, enjoy and go. People want to have planes which will fly themselves. And if all these things happen, one thing that gives me hope about artificial intelligence is that if you try to replace human beings completely, then human beings won't have jobs. And if they don't have jobs, they can't afford to purchase things which use artificial intelligence. So that might be a tempering factor, but otherwise life is going to be very different and difficult. It's going to be very difficult. 10 years from now. Watch it. So Locke says that everything should be limited, and he's the first liberal, complete supporter of capitalism. But please don't take him to be an idiot because he made the link between poverty and rationality, because it is that time when whole of England and Europe had become poor, and then it gave almost a level playing field for everyone to improve themselves. And in that particular time, if you didn't improve yourselves, then there is something wrong with you. So if you didn't take care of yourself when the opportunity was there, then please, I will not give you the opportunity to vote. That is what he said. And the other thing that you have to remember is his essay concerning human understanding is also a seminal work. Till then, people didn't talk about empiricism. People did not talk about positivism, faith in science. Today, we believe when we are born, there's nothing in our head. Unlike Plato said, most people think, how can you know things if you haven't seen them? How can you know things if you haven't felt them? That is what empiricism is. Okay, even the ancient Indian tradition believed that you are a smaller cosmos, microcosmos. So that's why they said dhyana. If you meditate, you will understand yourself. And the same principle that constituted you constituted the world. And if you understand yourself, then you understand the world. Tattvam asi. The Atman becomes the Brahman. Brahman is the universe. Plato also said we are born with knowledge. Chomsky proved it. I'll talk about that later. Chomsky proved it. But empiricism sees the world as being outside of us, not inside. And that is because of Locke. Locke shifted emphasis from the brain, primary emphasis from the mind, let's not call it the brain, from the mind to the senses, sense perception, and cognition. Okay, so when all your five senses are working, how is your brain making sense of that? How is your brain making sense of that? He said that is through the cognition process. Okay, you say, I recognize you. Read it as I recognize you, which means that my cognitive process has stored you in my memory, and when I see you, I recognize you. So these two works, an essay concerning human understanding and two treatises of government of Locke, are seminal to the modern period. This is where we end with Locke. We start with Rousseau tomorrow. I might not be doing so many slides. I hope you'll forgive me. We'll do it in a slightly different way. Thank you very much. I'll see you tomorrow. 11 o'clock? Quick.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
sir.
right. 11 o'clock tomorrow. Right then.